Saudi Arabia has presented the MiroLine skyscraper project, more than 100 kilometers long, made of mirrored glass, worth $1 trillion, which will be 381 meters taller than the Empire State Building. MiroLine will become part of a city called Neom. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud announced in January 2021 that he had decided to create an iconic and timeless construction project that would surpass the Egyptian pyramids. MiroLine will consist of two buildings with a height of 487 meters, which will run parallel to each other, through 120 kilometers of desert, coast, and mountain landscapes. The prince wants MiroLine to be ready by 2030, but engineers say it could take up to 50 years to build. The city will be powered by renewable energy sources. The prince insists that the buildings will be completely carbon neutral and safe for the local environment. A high-speed train will pass through the city, which will take you from one end of the city to the other in 20 minutes. MiroLine will create thousands of jobs. After the construction, the city will be able to accommodate 5 million people, who will partially be fed by vertical farming. According to the plan, residents will pay for a subscription for 3 meals a day. The skyscraper will also include a sports stadium at an altitude of 300 meters above the ground. Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud hopes that Neom will allow the country to stop being so heavily dependent on oil. The project has already faced criticism when it became known that local tribes were forcibly expelled from the area, and the security service is rumored to have shot a resident. Environmental planners say that MiroLine will disrupt the flight patterns of migratory birds, and the mirrored glazing of the building may confuse them even more. But in the realities of the 21st century, is it possible to implement such a large-scale project in this region? Let's start with the most important thing, money. The rich Arab sheiks and the principals are clear: this is oil, which beats in this region from under their feet, and the futuristic city of Neom is going to be built with oil dollars. But the project to build only one linear skyscraper, engineers estimate at 30 years. This is more than one generation of a person. Will global oil consumption decrease? During this period, such long-term planning is unlikely to be accurate, and there is no need to forget about the periodic economic cycles of growth and recession. The Saudis have really unfinished their beautiful bulk islands. Oil revenues have recently sunk. The environmental agenda, the green lobby, is gaining strength all over the world, and there are several bottlenecks in the 170-kilometer skyscraper project where environmental organizations can catch on. For example, the gigantic size of the structure can change the flow of groundwater in the desert and affect the migration of birds and animals. Mirrored walls of a skyscraper are an atypical thing in the middle of the desert, and the long construction of such a huge structure for 5 million people near the reserves of the Red Sea is unlikely to please Greenpeace. It's about sewage and the like. Globalism, it would seem, is not an obvious reason, but it can seriously affect such a project. Today you are on a horse with oil revenues, and tomorrow the world community will impose thousands of sanctions on you for human rights violations and modern slavery. And then the Yemeni Houthis, who are haunted by Saudi Arabia, are also accumulating forces. Wars in the world do not stop, and finally the banal reason, the technical complexity of the project. They may object that the highest tower of the Burj Khalifa was built in 6 years and nothing terrible. However, it's one thing to draw beautiful computer renderers for investors, and another to build a whole city from scratch on new principles and in a short time. This will require the mobilization and modernization of all sectors of the country. Judging by the description of the city, its complexity is comparable to the US lunar program. Will Saudi Arabia, frankly speaking not an advanced country, have enough potential to pull off such a large-scale project? First announced in 2017, Neom invariably caused surprise because of the colors offered, such as flying taxi robots, maids. Even though architects and economists doubted its feasibility. According to the Saudis, artificial intelligence will play a central role in how people will live in a 500-meter high and 200-meter wide, car-free carbon-neutral bubble that boasts almost complete stability and a moderate regulated microclimate. The kingdom's past environmental commitments, such as the promise to achieve zero carbon emissions by 2060, have aroused skepticism among environmentalists. Multimedia presentations have added color to what has so far been a concept that even some designers have found difficult to visualize. The brilliantly shot films show a metropolis partly resembling a Death Star with hanging gardens. Residents will have all their daily needs within a 5-minute walk, and will also have access to other privileges such as open ski trails and a high-speed railway with through transit of 20 minutes. Privately, he told his assistants and the planner that he wants Saudi Arabia to have its own version of the pyramids and, as is known, wants the kingdom to be as well known around the world as other countries in the region. However, the extravagance of the project and its various manifestations over the past 5 years have made some analysts wonder if it will ever be able to move forward. Given the limited access to the site and only 8 years remaining before residents will have to move in, it's too much to trust, said one consultant who works closely with the Saudi government. And there is inertia in the system. It is difficult to rule it out. Prince Mohammed hopes for a nationwide demographic boom, which he says will be necessary to turn Saudi Arabia, the world's largest exporter of crude oil, into an economic center. This is the main goal of creating Neom, he said. To increase the potential of Saudi Arabia, invite more citizens and more people to Saudi Arabia, and since we are doing this from scratch, then why should we copy normal cities? Faced with a demographic boom and a large percentage of young people looking for work, he said that Neom could create up to 380,000 jobs. According to Saudi Arabia's forecasts, 50 million people will live in the kingdom in 2030, more than half of whom will be foreigners. Currently, the population of Saudi Arabia is just under 35 million people.